Welcome to Those Who Can't Do. I am Andrea Forcum, and I am so excited for the episode today. This past week, I have been working with all of my early field experience students to get them into the classroom, getting them actually actively working with students. Right now, they are in middle schools and dealing with all of the chaos that entails. And the thing I keep trying to tell them is that they can't take things personally because kids will say some of the absolute most horrible things to get a reaction and to test limitations and all of that. I will never forget when I was walking around my classroom one day and I was trying to get my students back to work, back to their focusing, right? And for whatever reason, I had like one of those like random hairs just falling in my eyes the entire class. And I kept flicking it back. And one of the girls, when I came over, I was like, hey, sweetie, I need you to focus. I need you to get back on task. And she looked at me and she said, and I need you to fix your wig. But like, number one, wigs are fine. I just wasn't wearing one. And my natural hair was aggressively attacking me as I tried to instruct. And the way she like single-handedly humbled me and took me down. I mean, all of the kids around us just kind of like stared in awe of the way that she so easily humbled me. I'm so excited because today you guys are going to hear some equally humbling stories from Andrea Caspari, who is a comedian. She is touring right now with the National Board Teachers Comedy Tour, and she tells us some stories of her experiences both as a comedian and as a teacher. I cannot wait for you to hear it. Let's get to it. Today, I have my name twin, Andrea Caspari, with me. Hi.
Yay. Hi, how are you?
I am so excited. You guys, I saw Andrea do stand-up. It was like, I was trying to remember this morning. I think it was like 2 years ago now. Like this summer, it will be 2 years when you were touring with board teachers in San Diego, I think.
Yeah, it was July 2022.
That's insane because I was like, oh no, it was like this summer. It was not this summer. But I've been an absolute fan of you ever since I saw you perform. And you are also still teaching, question mark?
Yeah. Oh, so I'm subbing because I needed the flexibility and
Gotcha.
the material.
Yeah. Let me tell you, things are lean over here teaching college.
Yes.
Trying to like, I'm like, can you guys be like a little bit more disruptive and disrespectful? Because it's a real dry spell for my content when you guys are so like kind and courteous and hardworking. It's kind of lame. So
I know. Like, what do you have to do now? You're like, you go home. You're like, everything went really well. I'm just grading papers. Like, yeah, I get it.
Literally. Yeah. I'm like, today I told them like, hey guys, let's get to work. And then they got to work and then they worked. It's a very strange experience. But I would love for you to share kind of what you've taught, how long you taught, what grades, and how you got into nationally touring with your comedy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I've been teaching for 20 years. Last year was my 20th year. I taught 4 years in the inner city, 16 years in the suburbs, and all English. And I've taught dual credit. I've actually taught on campus like I did. They called it Long Drive Community College because it was Long View and it was just the longest. I mean, just, and I didn't have a commuter schedule. So that was fun. But I've taught on campus, off campus, and every single thing like creative writing, short story, ELA 9, ELA 10, just, junior English, like everything, every kiddo and from every time, everywhere you could think of. So every age group too.
I love that. So, but it was high school or did you do middle school as well?
I have never officially done middle school. I've subbed K through 12 and then emotional disorders and special ed and such, but that's for subbing. But for actual teaching, I'm certified. I kept it real brief, 9 through 12 English.
Gotcha.
That's it. Because they say that if you're too versatile, they'll put you anywhere. And I really believe that. I was like, nope, we're not trying to do middle school. That's just too many knobby knees and BO. So
you and I have very similar experiences because that was like my wheelhouse too, like teaching 9 through 12. And it's an experience. Do you have any insane things that you had to like confiscate or any crazy things that happened?
Well, I'm trying to think of some of the things that I've confiscated. I know that one of the things that really was crazy was I was teaching To Kill a Mockingbird, and I had a student smush an Oreo into the book. And he left it in the back. And I just remember this kid, he never participated. He didn't read the book, and he didn't share his Oreos. So I was just really disappointed.
Which, yeah, to be clear, not sharing the Oreos is probably the biggest offense there. But are you sure that that student wasn't making a commentary about race relations with taking the Oreo and smushing it together?
Yes. Okay. So I do believe that he was, because I mean, the black cookie and the white cream melding together, coming together, and then the crumbling of society.
Oh, yeah.
I truly believe that it was symbolic. And so the child not only did he pass, I think I gave him an A for the symbolism. That was more, it was, to me, that really represented what we were going for. So he understood the theme.
I love that. Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Now, what grade did you teach To Kill a Mockingbird?
So To Kill a Mockingbird was 9th grade. We had To Kill a Mockingbird, Of Mice and Men, The Odyssey, and Night. Those were our big, and of Romeo and Juliet were my big 7 years of freshman English. So,
oh my gosh, you did 7 years with freshmen.
Yes, that's why this is not like, look, I'm missing hair. There's some gray. Like this is not just a cool teacher wig. This is earned every step.
Yeah, it's a journey. So what made you get into teaching initially?
Health insurance. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, fair. My health insurance, when I was in California and they had the really strong union and everything there, my health insurance was top tier. So that wouldn't be like a terrible reason to get into teaching.
No, I loved it so much because I went to UCM, the University of Central Missouri, and I worked off my grad degree by teaching Comp 1 and 2. And I loved it so much. I thought, well, I could probably do this. And so I started subbing when I graduated, and everyone kept saying, you're such a good teacher. You're good with the kiddos who really need the most help, the at-risk youth and such. I could kind of relate to them, I guess. Right. And so I said, I'm going to do this. And I went for my provisional certification, but I taught in the inner city as I was getting it. So it was really, really cool because I never had the student teaching experience. I literally just jumped into the classroom and I was just teaching. And then for 2 years, just at night in night school, getting my actual teaching certificate.
That's so funny because you are at least the second person I've had on so far that is same as me, by the way, that got a provisional license. I think that happens, especially for those of us who, didn't go straight from, a bachelor's degree right into to teaching, because most of us, can't afford to work for free for 6 months.
That was crazy. I couldn't believe that was a whole thing that people were doing.
I know. And I asked them, I have vivid memories of sitting in the advisor's office because I had gotten a bachelor's degree in English. I was working as a technical writer horribly, like doing a terrible job. And I sat in the graduate office and I was like, okay, so, this is how long the process is. I can get my license and then, another semester I can get my master's. Cool.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but you have to do a semester of student teaching. And I was like, okay, so how am I going to work that with work? And they're like, well, you shouldn't work. And I'm like, I have a mortgage. Like what? Because I got married so young. Like we had a house, we had a mortgage, we had like responsibilities. Yes. And they were like, yeah, no, you can't work. And I was like, well, is there any way I can get a job beforehand and like get an emergency license or something like that? And this was 2011 when I was having these conversations. And they were basically just like, probably not. And I was like, all right. I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. They're like, especially as an English teacher, you're a dime a dozen, is what I vividly, like word for word, what she told me. So I low-key stalked all the principals in my area, like emailed them, showed up to every single like hiring fair, everything that they had available to meet all of these principals. And then I emailed them once a month.
Wow.
And I was like, hey, interested in hiring anybody? Because I would love to work at your school, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so. And eventually, like there was, and just like you, it was like a Title I school. that was really desperate, that had really high turnover, that was like, sure,
Yeah.
we'll bring in, see if you can float. And what a great first experience
Yes.
teaching with higher need kids.
It it's my favorite thing. I love teaching kids who need me and want me to be there. And sometimes they don't know they want me to be there yet, but then but then I force it upon them. I'm like, hey, I remember I had this little girl, Chevalier, and she wouldn't sit down. I said, sit down. And she said, put that little Vienna finger away, Miss C.
As in a Vienna sausage?
As a Vienna sausage. She was like, you
Oh
got little Vienna sausages. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And that, she put me in my place, but no, she was so sweet. We had such good relationships. And she also was the first spoken word poet that I'd ever met. She asked me one day, can I do a spoken word poem for your class? And it was memorized and it was like 2 minutes long. And we ended up taking her to some slam poetry. And then I ended up coaching a slam team years later. But she was the first person I'd ever seen that done. I had never, I mean, this was in the early 2000s. Or, not that early, but, 2005. And she was just so talented. And I love finding what the kids are into and then, just embracing that and developing that. That's my
Oh
favorite.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And especially when you've got, like you said, when you've got kids that really need you and
Yeah.
want to spend time with you. And it's like it's this weird relationship where they want someone to provide boundaries for them so that they can kind of push against them. If they're not having that structure at home, then they kind of like seek it out at school. And every
Yes.
single, one of my stories that I tell is one of those kids who made me laugh so hard because they are just trying to make sense of this crazy world and they're doing it in my classroom and just pushing boundaries wherever they possibly can. And when I taught for 3 years at a small private Christian school. It was a
Oh,
tuition-based
cool.
school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it meant that those kids for those 3 years, at the very least, regardless of whatever else was going on at home, it meant that there were resources enough to send them to this school, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which meant that, these parents, at least prioritize education however much a month to send
Hmm.
them to the school.
Yeah.
Whereas I had come from that Title I public school out in Virginia where everyone came from who knows what and kids were waking up in their cars and all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And what I found very quickly is like I still like felt like I really loved the kids and all of that, but they didn't need me, not the
Yeah.
same way. And I
Yeah.
transitioned out of that and back into public school education because I felt like I was able to make so much greater of an impact
Yes.
with those kids who really like needed a caring adult in their lives. Not that the kids' lives were perfect at the private school. They had their own like challenges and stuff like that, but it was just a very different thing. I didn't have the kids hanging out before school, at lunch, after school, at the private, because a lot of them had sports, they had all of that stuff. Whereas at the public schools, it was my room was constantly kind of full of kids and all of that.
Yes, and that's my favorite. The kids who would come to visit in the morning, I knew if they were absent for the day, if they didn't come see me. I mean, there were kids, I didn't even have them anymore years later, and they would just come to visit and hang out. I had a little girl named Riley, and she would just bring in stuffed animals, and we would name them, and and she would leave one as collateral to come get at the end of the day. And we put little name tags on them. This is Fur Baby, and this, just silly. And these are high school kids, but they
Mhm.
just wanted a place to belong. And that's why I
Mhm.
loved my school so much. I miss teaching daily so much because we had so many of our teachers were like that. I mean, they just provided a safe space. Kids just
Yeah.
want to feel so safe. And just like you were saying, I love that you said that they need that structure. So it's so funny because people might look in and say, oh, this is a mess, but you have to understand there's a structure. And then they are pushing against it, but they have to have that structure. They need to know, where do I sit? They need to know that they feel safe. And I always had granola bars and fruit snacks and crackers, and they would bring their friends. Jimmy's hungry. Can he have some crackers? Yeah, of course. I just love doing that, and our school was really known for that. Winnetonka High School, shout out, just
Oh.
the most caring and loving staff you've ever met. From the tippy toe, from everybody. I mean, I'm telling you, all the teachers, custodians, the cafeteria ladies. Like I'm best friends with all of them still, and they were so good to these kiddos. and they
I
still are.
love that. And like what a
Yeah.
phenomenal legacy. Like if one thing could be said about a school, I would rather have that than the highest test scores in the county.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, like a
Yeah.
loving, supportive, safe place for the kids. That's
Oh,
incredible.
the most loving, and we're all still friends. We're all even teachers that have left. We all still we have this teacher thread, and we just send random memes and all kinds of stuff. We're
I
still,
l-
yeah.
I love that. So now how did you transition into doing stand up?
Best question. I love this because I actually started doing stand up before I started teaching.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so you gosh, because I still to this day have not
Yeah.
done stand up. I've thought about it. I even googled if there was any like open mic nights in my little town of Terre Haute, and there is on Friday
Yeah.
nights. There's one like dive bar that has stand up, and I'm like, because I don't want to do it with an audience that knows me for the first thing because I feel
Yes.
like that's cheating a little bit, you know? Like
I mean,
I mean, yeah, yes and no, right? Because they're familiar with me, they already like me, all of that. Like I want to see if I'm funny, like if the jokes themselves are funny, not just like, oh, they like me and that's, why they're laughing kind of a thing.
yeah.
And so I've flirted with the idea, but I'm absolutely terrified of actually going out there and trying to do like a tight 10 in front of strangers. So how did
Yeah.
you like end up doing that for the first time?
So, funny thing. So, years ago, I started doing comedy just 1 year prior to teaching. And I had been teaching, I was a graduate teaching assistant of Comp 1 and 2. And I met somebody at school, and not a student, I promise. I met this gentleman in one of my classes that I was taking. And he worked across the street from Stanford and Sons in Kansas City. And that was our one big club in Westport in Kansas City. And I remember him saying, because I'd always said, oh, I want to do stand up. Oh, stand up's so cool. And he said, you're funnier than any of those guys at the open mic. And I was like, oh, well, let's go see. And I went on a Tuesday night and I said, oh, you are so right. So
So you went
I
and now that Tuesday night, did you actually do stand up or did you just watch other people and thought I'm so much funnier than them?
know my name twin. No, darling. I did a reconnaissance mission. Oh no, I did not go in. No, 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 no. I'd never seen it really done. They had like Comedy Central specials and things, but I had never gone to live comedy. And so here I'm watching, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and then the big guys would do five. They would get five because they were known or whatever. And I said, let's just see what this is all about. And then I said, okay. And I brought my own 3 minutes the next week, and I did it. And I want to say that I killed, but actually there was death involved. My There was. This is a legendary story. I'm going to make it really quick, but this is so crazy. There was a guy, I'm still best friends with him to this day. He was a comedian named Kyle Paris. And he decided that he was very Andy Kaufman-esque. He still is. When he does comedy, he does kind of, just like a skit type of thing. And what he did was he basically, I saw him at the pre-meeting. They had like this meeting, the pre-show meeting, and he had a cooler, an igloo cooler, and he had just like this big curly kind of hairdo, and just really strange looking guy, right? And I thought, well, who is this guy, and why does he have a cooler? Were we supposed to bring lunch? Like I didn't, I don't know. I've never done an open mic. Anyway, so he was like number 3, and I was like number 6 when we drew out of the hat. And so Kyle Paris gets up on stage and he says, I have a pet possum, and I'm going to teach him to do tricks. And he had already staged, he was a regular. So he'd already had them put a vacuum cleaner up there. It was plugged in. And he opens the igloo cooler and he pulls out a possum and he sticks the vacuum cleaner in him to revive him because he says, he's dead. He's dead. My pet, he's been in the cooler and now he's suffocated and he's dead. We have to revive him. And he puts the vacuum, and the stench of death just infiltrates the entire, it pervades everything. And it's because he found it as roadkill, I found out later. And he brought it in this cooler, kept it for a couple of days in his car. And then he brought the possum out and he revived it as the stage show, as a skit. And the whole place, they were vomiting. They ran to the bathroom. They were Rochambeauing for the toilets. They were leaving. Over half the audience was gone by the time it was my turn. They were gone.
What?
He was banned for life. This is my first night. first night of comedy ever. And I had to go up. So this guy comes up with this, Lysol spray. And then it's my turn. Now, Andrea Caspari. Oh, and I'm up there and I have friends in the audience giggling. The rest of them are puking.
Oh my gosh.
I can't make this up. This is a legendary story. Everybody knows Kyle and the Possum story. No one really has put together that was also my first night of open mic. And so I thought, if I can get through this, and I still got giggles, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. I promise you, there hasn't been another show that was ever worse. There's been nothing like that since.
I'm trying to understand, comedians take risks. That's why we love them, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to see a comedian really go for it. But his idea was like, it's going to be so funny to bring a rotting corpse on stage and reanimate it.
Yes, absolutely. And to him, that was hysterical. And this is a man who he one time he was wearing pants and painting a donut, and then he turned around and he didn't have a back to the pants. Completely tushed out. Yeah, but he was just a character. And the last thing he ever did before he moved to Chicago, he's been living in Chicago like 16 years. He did a slip and slide into cherry pie. So.
Wow. So very committed to the physical comedy bits.
Yes.
Then.
Absolutely. And I do some physical comedy. I like to dance on stage and I like to do some, characters and things. But, I just thought, this is awesome. I love a risk taker. So we became fast friends and we still are friends to this day. He calls me almost every Sunday and he's just a really good friend and we keep in touch. So he's so great.
I love that. That is just so unhinged. That's exactly the kind of people that I would be drawn to as well.
Yes. Oh, it's so funny and such a good human. And so I just started doing open mics and things like that. And we just didn't have a lot of them in Kansas City when I started. And then it started to pick up. And then, I just started to do it professionally, but I was teaching the whole time. And I just remember, so a couple of years ago, no, maybe it was like 2017 or something. I always thought being a teacher was so different. I was the only comedian teacher I'd ever met. Now we know that there are a lot of them, right? I don't know if it's just grown or if we're just discovering them because of social media. But before social media was huge, Devin Siebold was making all of his videos and he was cracking us up and we were sharing them in our groups and sharing them online. And I just remember, I got brave one day and I said, I'm contacting this guy. And I said, you know what? My home club is the Kansas City Improv, now the Funny Bone. They just renamed it last month. I don't know why. But anyway, we got married there. It's like a whole thing. So it's really cute. Anyway, so it's my home club. And I said, if you ever come to town, I would love for you to do a show. Like, let's just put a show together in Kansas City. And he was like, that sounds amazing. A year or so later, he emails me, my friend Joe and I are coming to the Improv. Will you be on our show? And I was like, sure. And I had no idea Joe. Oh, guess who that was? Mr. D.
I was going to say, Mr. D. That's so awesome.
I should have let you guess. Do you want to try that again?
No, that's okay. It's all right.
So it was, and I had never heard of this guy. And this was so many years ago, right? And I had never heard. So I'm Googling him and it's Joe Dombrowski of Ellen and all, and I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my God, it's Mr. D, Joe. Okay, I don't know Miss Joe. And then Devin came and I did a 3-minute, just a guest spot because they already had a host and just killed it and had fun. And I was like, these are my people. 300 sold out, mostly women, but it doesn't matter. But teachers, educators, bus drivers, custodians, these are my people. And they were giggling. They got it. They just understood. And so then a few years later, Devin said, hey, we're starting the Board Teachers Comedy Tour. Would you be interested? And I said, say no more. And there we did it.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So have you ever performed at like your school or any of that, like at a professional development?
You're so cute. So absolutely. Oh, I do have to tell you. So I used to do comedy and cookies every year. This was to earn money for the art department to go on their trips because they would go to like Paris and London and go look at the art and stuff. So we would do that as a fundraiser. And then another time we did laughs for lunches to pay off the student lunch debt. So that was really fun. Yeah, it was really cool. I love doing that charity kind of stuff. And then another time they forgot teacher appreciation. And they asked
Of course
me
they did.
Of course they did.
Right.
I'm telling you, I just several years ago, they had this special day, and it was supposed to be like rest and relax and rejuvenate,
Mm-hmm.
R&R or whatever. And there was a
Mm-hmm.
hashtag for it, and it was like, North Kansas City, all this stuff. And our administration forgot until the last minute. And so then the next day we had nothing, and we were seeing all of these, like everyone had donuts, and someone brought in Hawaiian Brothers buffet lunch, and someone had bagels. And they had at one of the schools, they had, you could choose 6 different activities. You could do yoga and massage and things. And, we
Oh
were,
my gosh.
well, I think we got to wear jeans.
Oh
I think,
no.
or
There's
maybe
just
even
like just
sweatpants.
jeans and tumbleweeds. Oh no.
Absolutely. And they even said if you want to go roll around outside or something. I mean, really, just take your time. Okay, so that was fun. So it was for the early release or early late start. Anyway, so then one of the administrators came to me, a good friend, and she was just like, "Hey girl, next week we're going to redo this. Okay. So this was on a Thursday late start. And she's like, next Thursday late start, can you do comedy?" And I said, "You want me to take 160 staff members who are peeved, who feel undervalued, completely forgotten, and you want me to make them giggle at 7:30 in the morning?"
7:30 in the morning is a brutal time to do comedy.
It's the most brutal time. I mean, now, I don't think anyone had been drinking, maybe a few, but I said no. I really did. I said no. And she goes, "Okay." And so instead, the committee, and I think that while she was asking me, the committee was already, they had hired a comedian, magician, hypnotist instead. And they took the $300 that I guess was supposed to be earmarked for donuts, and they paid him to come and do hypnotism at 7:30 in the morning while we're eating Kodiak pancakes. I remember there were Kodiak. I don't know why we needed high protein pancakes. Nobody cared. Anyway, and so I was so excited. I was like, this is going to be amazing. So the night before, so that Wednesday, a week later, that Wednesday, we're all talking about how stupid this sounded, and this is going to be an S show. And I'm just texting, this is going to be awful. This is going to be ridiculous, to my teacher thread. And then one of my teacher besties texted me and said, "Honey, the assistant principal's on this thread. You texted the wrong one," because they were side by side in my inbox. And I said, "Oh
Oh
my God."
no.
And so she saw it, and it was never the same again. And I felt so bad, but I did get a front row, and I was like, let's see this guy. And man, the pancakes were good, and he really tried. But that was a tough crowd. I think he did a good job for what he had to deal with. But I was not going to take the brunt. I was like, oh, heck no. I don't want them to think I forgot, like I was on the planning committee or something, and said, whatever.
Yeah.
No,
A magician, comedian, hypnotist at 7:30 in the morning is that's a lot. That's a lot.
That, you know what, honey, but let me tell you, when you get into comedy, that's just called a corporate gig.
See, and these are the stories that I heard from so many comedians where they're like, yeah, and then I went to this corporate thing and everyone was miserable, or they did it on Zoom and it was horrible. And I'm like, that sounds so bad.
And it sounds like such good money, because you can go to these awesome, so board teachers is awesome, of course, and that doesn't even count. This is just its own dream. But like some of these heck gigs, right? HE double hockey sticks gigs. Oh my gosh. Corporate gigs are the worst. They're just absolutely the worst. They're, it's 10 a.m. No one has had a drink. You're sitting by your boss. Nobody knows if they're allowed to laugh. You keep looking at her. Is she giggling? She's not, and oh my gosh, it's the worst. And you have like 40 people just staring at you like, we really could be cleaning our offices or clipping our toenails. What are you doing here?
Oh my gosh.
It's not good. But that puts hair on your chest. I can show you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But that puts hair. I'm serious. It puts hair on your chest. This is how, if you, anytime that you have to follow a dead possum or or a comedian hypnotist at 7:30.
Right.
I didn't do that one, but all right. Corporate gigs are where you're going to make your money, but you're earning it.
Yeah. It's putting in the work. All right. Well, that feels like a good place for us to take a quick break. So we will be right back. All right. Welcome back. So the next thing I wanted to ask you today, Andrea, and it's very strange saying my own name to someone else. I have limited experiences with other Andreas. I know a lot of Andreas, but this is special for me.
Well, I love you because when we first met, like you jumped in my DMs
I
after
did.
the
I slid right
show,
in those DMs. Yeah.
slid right in, and you were so sweet. Oh, it was so funny. You guys all did a great job, and you were just so sweet. And then we started keeping in touch. But I was dying because I got all of your merch. Like I understood all of your shirts and everything you were
Yay.
going through. It's hysterical. We're kindred spirits. Same name, 9 through 12. The experiences are so similar, and you
Yeah.
just get it. You just get it. You have earned every single follower you have. You are so precious and so good at this. I'm so proud of you. You've grown so much and it's so cool to
Oh,
watch.
you're
Yeah.
so kind. Thank you. It's really really fun when English teachers find their way to my merch shop even if they buy nothing cuz
Yeah.
everything is so niche English teacher humor. Like
Yes.
there's a few that are not like English teacher focused, but a vast majority, right? Cuz that's like where my soul is. So it's
Yes.
like very like niche allusions to things that happen in American lit books mostly because that's what I mostly taught, but yeah,
Yes.
it's
American Lit was my favorite. That was actually my very favorite, my junior English American Lit. And then they switched it up, every few years we had to teach something different. I don't know how I
yeah.
got stuck for a 7 year loop on freshman, but I liked the literature, so it was fine. But yes,
Yeah.
American Lit is also my favorite and where I was. So
Yeah. See,
yeah,
twins,
we're
twins.
twins.
So,
Twins.
I know I embarrassed myself quite a bit throughout my time in the classroom. Did you ever have like a really embarrassing moment while you were teaching?
Yes. When I started teaching dual credit several years ago, I was teaching dual credit college English through Maple Woods. I mean, this was a serious class. Every kid in it, most of them were trying to get a credit that would go towards their high school and English for college. And so I had to be like, a little more serious than normal, right? And man, I just was so confused. I had taught Hamlet before, but I hadn't reread it. And I don't know about you, but I'm only ever 24 hours ahead of a kid
100%. Yeah.
ever.
Hmm.
Ever, right?
Right.
Just because there's so much, they have so many expectations, and then grades are due, and then this, and suddenly, you're coaching something, and whatever, you're up all night and working, and we have families. I've heard,
Right.
if memory serves. So I remember, I got really confused, and I just Googled what the hell is happening in Act 3 of Hamlet. Because it was so confusing. We just kept reading, and we were, back in the day I would do that stupid Shakespeare or whatever it was called, the one that
No
had
fear,
the
Shakespeare.
No Fear Shakespeare, right?
Stupid Shakespeare.
Stupid Shakespeare.
Right.
Yeah. And so we did that with like Romeo and Juliet and whatever, they're freshmen, who cares, right? And I could handle freshmen. But here I am
Yeah.
trying to teach college, and we're reading, in Shakespearean Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Okay, no. So anyway, so I was like, what the hell is happening in Hamlet in Act 3? And then a little girl said, Miss Caspari, your projector's on. Ah,
Oh.
literally, the kids saw me in real time, just Googling all that. And I was like,
Oh.
oh no.
They
I
just
mean,
fully saw behind the curtain for a second.
they really did. They're just like, oh, Oz, this isn't good. And then they closed the curtain back because we do. I mean, I'm in Missouri and not Kansas, so we're close enough. But
Right.
Toto was even like,
Oh.
this was so bad. I just wanted to click my heels and just get out of that one.
What did you say when she told you that?
I just said that was a screensaver. It's just wild. That was just wild.
You're like, that's my super hilarious screensaver. I hope everybody loved it.
Yeah. And then I switched to a cat falling off a ledge or something.
Nice.
Yeah.
Smooth.
What are you going to do? What can you do? I mean, yeah, I'm so smooth, right? It was so embarrassing. I was mortified. And I do wake up sometimes at night sweating and thinking about it.
That's fair. It would haunt me. I don't think I ever have had one of those searches. I do think that I have accidentally shared my screen when I was Amazon shopping during teaching during COVID. Like when we were all trapped at home, and I thought that I had like only shared the box, like because you can share either just a box or you can share your whole screen. And I thought I had shared the box.
Yes.
And I realized like way too late. And I didn't have the chat up because I was clearly not paying attention to my own class. I can't even remember what we were doing, but I think I was like, okay, guys, like check in the chats for some. And I wasn't like, thank God, like shopping
Yeah.
for anything embarrassing, it was probably like, millennial women's clothing choices, Amazon or something.
Oh, like,
And,
hey,
like, getting
hey,
like,
Timu. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so I opened up the chat when I was, after the 5 minutes or whatever I had given them. And the chat was full of people private DMing me saying, like, you are sharing your screen with everybody. We all saw
Yes.
that. And I was like, oh, I
Oh, you're like mortified. I mean, where do
so
you go from that?
embarrassing.
How did you get out of it?
I just started laughing and I was like, well, that's really embarrassing. So all right. And like just kind of stumbled my way through because like it's so mortifying and it completely ruins the illusion that we have it all together, that we like to try and have
Yeah.
sometimes. Like,
I
because
know.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I've never had that illusion. Like, I the one time that I really tried to be so serious, it was the first day of teaching at UCM. At the time, it was called CMSU, Central Missouri State University, and I was teaching Comp 1, and I had a class of 30 students, and most of them were older than me. And I remember I went to this stupid place to buy a suit. I don't know why I chose lemon yellow. At Lane Bryant, they just call it butter. You have to have a reference.
Right, right.
So I'm wearing this butter colored suit and I thought I looked so cute and like kind of fresh,
Mhm.
whatever. And I spent an hour just being serious, as serious as I can be, right? And here's what we're going to do. And here's your syllabus. And here's how, this is college and we're on time and And then I said, does anyone have any questions? And one of the youngest kids in the class, like an 18-year-old student at the college, I mean, on campus, right? I was doing grad school and graduate teaching. He raises his hand and he's like, I didn't know we were going to have a crazy teacher.
Oh.
That was his takeaway. And everyone starts laughing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a laughing stock. I really thought, but then we all, we all got along and we all had a great time together. I mean, and I realized, and this is my takeaway. You just have to be authentic and then and that's how you gain relationships. That's where you get the good stuff. You just have to be
Yeah.
authentic. Yeah. Anytime you try it, they can see right through the facade
Oh, yeah.
if you try to be too cool or if you try to be too serious. So you just have to do you and just be
Mhm.
honest. Like, I'm having a really crazy day today, or something weird happened last night, or a student kind of ticked me off this morning. So y'all be good today. I need your help. Whatever, like just no funny business because it's been a weird day.
Right.
Authenticity is one of my biggest tips as a teacher.
Yeah, that's always what I'm telling my student teachers who are about to go into the classroom is like, just be yourself. But then at the same time, I have a couple students that like have kind of potty mouths and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
be yourself, but like tamper that down because you can't be
Yeah.
behaving like that in front of a group of because they're all going into their middle school field placements right now. Yeah.
Oh.
So the way ISU does it is before they have student teaching, they have early field experience. So they
Oh.
have 6 weeks of time in the classroom where they teach just one unit in the middle school. And then the second
Okay.
semester, they do the same thing, but in the high school. So they've
Oh,
already
cool.
kind of dipped their toe in the water a little bit before they get to student teaching.
Mhm.
And so this semester, they're doing middle school. And I'm just like, like blessings to all of you as you go into this dark time.
You're just sending out sympathy cards. Like, I'm
Yeah,
so sorry. Yes, for your loss of sanity. Oh,
exactly. So, with 20 years of classroom experience, I think that you are the perfect person to give some advice. And one of the things we do on this podcast is we take we take questions from the audience. So, I have a couple of questions that I would love to hear
yeah.
your take on.
I love it. I can't wait. Let's do it.
All right. So the first one is from somebody named Megan from Pennsylvania. And she asked, how do you handle openly defiant students, i.e., an eighth grader who wants to argue and fight back on everything?
I love it. Okay. So he'll become my new favorite. Let me tell you guys, I will walk in and the first kid to give me any guff will become my favorite, will become the class leader because I basically will recognize that immediately. He is the squeaky wheel trying to get oiled and I need to come over And what I'll do, I'll kind of notice the ones who are a little defiant or put the feet on the desk or just, whatever, give me a little lip. And I'll go to them. And back in the day, I would threaten them, no, within an inch of their life, end of story. No. I go and I say, hey, Jimmy, um, you're really such a class leader. I noticed that a lot of the kids follow you and they really look up to you. Do you think you can hand some of these papers out for me? Or do you think you can take attendance down for me? You're just like really dynamic. And I just, I think you're awesome. Let's do this. And I promise you, this has worked. The last few years that I kind of developed that, I mean, my goodness, these kids, they love it because the reason that they are acting defiant is because there is a disconnect with attention from somewhere. They need it. Maybe the family doesn't give it. Maybe they live with grandma and she's busy with other kiddos or at work. They need that love. They want that attention. They just have been getting it in a negative way. And they know that if they're defiant in other classes, they're going to get yelled at. They're going to get attention. They're going to, put the tack in the seat and, whatever the teacher sits on it. Now you're in detention. No, I don't have that kind of free time. I'm here to teach. I'm here to enjoy you. And every single child can learn and deserves to learn. And I never label a kid, quote unquote, bad. I just notice who is defiant, who's a little lippy, and we're going to go ahead and get him on my side immediately. So because he is a natural leader, or she, or them, they, them, is their natural leader. So it's time to go ahead and employ them as a natural leader and use their powers for good.
I completely agree. And the way that I always handled students like that is, again, twinsies, because I feel like I handle it very similarly, or I try to, where I identify that kid very early on. And the way I kind of frame it is that I am so insufferably kind and loving towards that child that it becomes too much work for them to still hate me. Like it would be an exorbitant amount of effort for them to continue to be rude or hateful to me, because I have at that point worn them down to the point where I am literally, I know about what they like, what they don't like. I reach out to them. I know about their life. Like people don't really, like kids are lazy. They're not going to work that hard to hate you if you were just constantly being kind and loving to them. Like they don't have the energy for it. They're just going to like you and they're going to hate somebody else at that point because they're like, all right, fine. Like, I guess she's chill. Like, like is usually how it ends.
I love it. That is such a quote, my friend. They're not going to work that hard to hate you. That is a quote you should put on a shirt or something, just play with that. That is valuable. That is so valuable. And it's just because students, they want that attention, or they're so used to getting it in that negative way. And I know we've all heard that, but to be insufferably kind and to really take an interest in them immediately. But the number one thing is to go ahead and make sure that you identify who the student is, who the leader is, because if you isolate that leader, then the others just will follow. So that's a really quick way to do it on a first day, because you really do set the precedent. And I'm not trying to freak anybody out, like especially new teachers. Like if you mess up the first day, it's forever. They're just throwing spitwads and going crazy. Like, I've been teaching a long time. There were spitwads, I promise. Now they're just throwing headphones, or I don't know, earbuds or whatever. But you can figure out who it is and then make sure that you take care of it very early on, because if you don't, it will get out of hand. So you do have to figure some things out pretty quickly.
And I think one of the things that can be so challenging as the teacher is you really have to be familiar with your own triggers and your own reactions when kids disrespect you, because that kid's not going to come in saying, I'm a leader, and if I don't get some extra attention, I'm going to be your nightmare. Like, they're going to show up and they're going to like roll their eyes and they're going to be disrespectful. And, if you just immediately respond with like negativity back, I'm not saying like be like what's the word? I'm like, don't be a carpet. Don't be a
doormat.
Doormat. I was like, floor mat is wrong. What is
I love you. You're like, don't be a car mat.
Don't be a car, a hat. What? Like, okay, got it.
Don't be a car hat.
Yes. Like, don't just roll over. Like, but also like be the adult and have control of your emotions, and it's 100% easier said than done, because I would be lying to say that I always had control of my emotions every time a kid was rude to me. Like we're all human. There's things that kids can say that really hurt us. And
Yes.
we have to be very intentional. And there were times that I had to quite literally like take a step outside and take a breath because
Oh,
a
yeah.
kid really managed to get to me one of those times. But like you said, if you establish that relationship early, if you
Oh, yeah.
identify those kids and you use their leaderships for good and not evil,
Yeah.
then it makes the rest of the year go so much smoother. It's incredible.
It does. It does. And I will tell you this, I don't want either of us to come off as like, oh, we know this or this has always been. Just like you said, we had to take years to figure this out.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to impart this knowledge to anyone listening as quickly as possible, because I would say the first 10 years of my career, I was triggered. I was truly, truly hurt. This child is disrespecting me. I remember in the first year or two, I said, I'm the CEO of this classroom. You see my name on the door. This is Miss Caspari's classroom and my rules. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, and just, totally freaked out and going home and sobbing and, whatever. And now I just giggle and I'm like, oh, okay, honey.
Yeah, literally.
This ain't my first rodeo. Okay, come on, and go sit yourself down.
Yeah.
Oh, hush with you. And every once in a while I play breathe with them, or I play get triggered. So I'll be like, excuse me. Okay, I'm back. And then they giggle and we just start fresh.
Yeah.
And that is another tip, is to always start fresh. Every single day is a new day. So if you had a really weird day with Haley last night, yesterday, today Haley comes in. Good morning, Haley. Don't keep it. Don't hold on to it, because that only hurts the two of you. That hurts you so much. And then it hurts the relationship with the student. And then they can't learn because they're not safe.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Solid advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second question is more curriculum based. So we had James from Indiana asking or saying, I'm really interested in alternative studying techniques for students that struggle with traditional outline style of note taking. For example, sketch note taking can be more engaging than just writing down everything. So when you were, lecturing and stuff like that, what are some things that you maybe used to help students that were maybe more visual or needed to move or something like that?
Okay, well, this is an awesome question too. We are an AVID school, and so we were like an AVID demonstration school. It was a really big deal, and so we did the Cornell notes.
Oh yeah.
And so students had the Cornell sheet, and that established a procedure. Everybody goes up and they get their Cornell sheet. And I think that there have been studies done that when students write, they learn more. It's ingrained in them more so than when they're just typing notes. So I like to have students grab the Cornell sheet, and they put the title and they put the date and they organize it. But here's the thing. I love to teach, multiple intelligences in different ways. And every student has their own way, right? We have the kinesthetic learner, and you have the audio learner, and the visual and the audio visual. So if students need to take a little break, go and sit, sometimes I'll have like a beanbag or somewhere else that they can sit. I don't freak out on, oh my gosh, everyone has to be sitting in the row and everyone has to be facing. You need to do what works for you. And this is another thing that, years later that we learn, right? This is just a 20-year veteran kind of thing, more so than I came into this, I've always been so great. No, I'm just telling you that students need alternate settings. Some kiddos need the notes written, right, and a copy of the notes, but then they're able to study because maybe it was just we're going too fast. I always make sure that the PowerPoint is on Canvas. That's like our Blackboard or whatever. The students, they can go at their own pace. Everything is about flexibility. It's about figuring out who your students are. And once they're safe enough to talk to you and to share, hey, I'm not getting this. Can I stay after a little bit? That's fine too. We had Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would stay after for tutoring and things like that. We had a huge tutoring session in the cafeteria, and a person from each discipline would sit at a table and work with the students. So I usually signed up for Tuesday or Thursday, and we had several other teachers do that. And so I just want students to find the way that works for them. There is no way that works for everybody. And back in the day, that was that cookie cutter, all 30 students facing, and they're all looking at the overhead, and everybody's writing. And if you get out of line, you're missing it, and we're just going to go without you.
Yeah.
I want students to have different ways to do it, and to make sure that they are learning in their own at their own pace and in their own best way.
Yeah, 100%. And I love Cornell Notes as well. I've
Yeah.
used those quite a bit. And I think,
Hmm.
like you said, having like a standard procedure of how you do
Hmm.
notes and that kind of routine is incredibly helpful. But
Hmm.
also, something I love to do is have my students do like a pair share real quick, be like, okay,
Yeah.
so I just finished introducing Shakespeare. Tell your neighbor your favorite fun fact that we just learned about Shakespeare. And then they do,
Yes.
and I love the ability to like have them talk for a second because me and you both probably
Hmm.
we can't sit silently for 40 minutes without like moving or talking or doing something. Like put me in professional development for an hour and I am like worse than my students, so much
Oh.
worse. Like
Oh.
playing
Oh.
with my phone, texting my colleagues about lunch. Like
Yeah.
I'm the worst, right? So I try and keep my mind in that kind of space where I'm like, if I wouldn't be able to sit here for an hour and just absorb, why am I
Yes.
expecting this 14-year-old to do it? Who is,
Yes.
got all of these other things on their plate other than my class as well.
Oh, 100%. And this really brings me to not only, of course, agree with you, my name twin and my bestie, but let me also say that the student learning has changed. And
Yeah.
we have to adapt to that and we have to recognize it. And even though it's much to our chagrin, it is upsetting that everything is just piecemeal, like, here you go, da, 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 and we're just trying to do fun facts. Hey, it helps if you realize that that's how it's going.
Yeah.
They are, and we are scrolling through TikTok, scrolling through. And so if you do something like that, I like to show, like John Green has the crash course history things. I like to find fun 4-minute videos on the concept.
Yeah.
Right. Like in workshop model, we really did kind of move to workshop model. And I always felt that initially I was offended because I was like, oh my gosh, I used to do a 40-minute PowerPoint on Dickinson and now I'm just throwing out. I'm like, okay, she uses dashes. Let's move on.
She uses dashes. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. She was agoraphobic. She had a white dress. Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Right.
And it was upsetting. But now if you really acknowledge that kids learn in a different way, they are absorbing their information. And if you incorporate that, maybe have them do something, like make a playlist for Shakespeare. We've done that before. What, and what does that represent? Everything has to be, you have to adapt.
Yeah.
Look, when you've been teaching for 20 years or however long, how long have you been teaching?
10 years.
10 years, that's a long time. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a decade. These are things change, and things have changed even more. Technology begets more technology, and it's only going to get smaller and quicker and faster.
Yeah.
So we just have to kind of roll with the punches and understand that it's not that same rolling in of the projector and the
Yeah.
overhead and taking the notes. You have to roll with the punches and figure out how the kids learn best now,
Yeah.
the modern way.
Oh, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. I would love to have you share where you're going to be. How can people find you in the upcoming months since you're like a national traveler going everywhere and performing everywhere?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's awesome. We have so many fun dates coming up at boardteachers.com. You can find all of our tickets and our calendar. But we're doing like Louisville, Kentucky at some point soon, and Shreveport, Louisiana, Fort Worth, Texas. I'm super excited about some Colorado shows, Evans, Georgia, Greensboro, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Macon, Georgia. But I'm really excited to come to your town. We're going to come to Evansville and come
Right.
see our Andrea, my name twin. Check us out at boardteachers.com.
Absolutely. And I 1000% will tell you guys when I went, that was how I was first, introduced to Andrea. And it was so much fun. I was laughing so freaking hard. And there were several
Yay.
comedians that I was less familiar with that I got to know by going to the show. And now I'm going again and I'm bringing my college students with me to go and see them. So I cannot tell you enough how much you need to make it to one of those shows. They are super, super fun. So don't miss out on that. Now, is there anywhere else that people can find you other than on the Board Teachers site?
Yes, please jump on. I'm at Caspari Land. I have that whole thing happening. I'm trying to follow in your footsteps and build my social media. And one of my big ones that I'm really trying to do is Andrea Caspari Comedy on Facebook. I think that's a really good one. I'm trying to put out memes and videos, and I do have some on the board teacher sites as well. But TikTok is Caspari Land Comedy, but Instagram and YouTube are Caspari Land. So just, jump on if you think that this was helpful or funny, or you want to see some more, material or content, jump on there, because I have new stuff coming every few days. And I have so much fun interacting with people who jump on, and I always have fun advice, and I'll make you giggle. And I also love feedback. So you tell me what's on your mind too.
Awesome. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, you go and check her out on all of those profiles, and we will be right back. Thanks. Welcome back. So I hope you guys enjoyed my conversation with my name twin, Andrea Caspari. I so love getting to talk to her about all of her crazy experiences. And the Shakespeare story, I think, is the one that stands out the most to me, just because it's so relatable to be sitting there while you're in the middle of teaching it and just Googling, like, what was happening in Macbeth or Hamlet? And I thankfully, like I said, have never had that specific experience, but I do vividly remember one time teaching a group of juniors who were really bright. Like, I started teaching that group and knew pretty quickly, like, some of these kids are for sure smarter than me. And I was going over some grammatical stuff, and grammar has never been my strong suit. And I remember teaching it with such confidence, like saying it with my whole chest when I was up there. And then the sweet boy came after class and came up to me and was like, hey, miss, you said this was the answer, but I don't think that's correct exactly. And I was so mortified. He was 1,000% right. And he did it so gently. So I went back up and had to be like, I'm sorry, I was wrong, and eat crow in front of my entire class, which got to stay humble, right? So something that I want to make sure that we do before I let you guys go is talk about what your students have been doing to keep you humble in your classroom. One submission was that a student said, Miss, you look like a puppet coming out of an onion in the best way possible. I'm trying to fathom what they meant by that. If maybe there was a lot of layers happening with the outfit, and that's why she looked like a puppet coming out of an onion, but that would be difficult to recover from. And on that same note, another student apparently said, your style looks like someone who takes their cat camping. And I don't know, not to come for art teachers, because I love our art teachers, but I feel like that's the description of that style specifically, is very maybe exuberant and colorful, and a lot of floating layers happening. So I don't know. I don't think these descriptions were the same teacher, but either way, they're gonna keep us humble one way or another. If you guys have thoughts about what we talked about today, or you have something insane that your students said to keep you humble in class, you can reach out to us on my profile on Educator Andrea on Instagram and TikTok, or you can email us at andrea@human-content.com, or you can visit us on TikTok at Human Content Pods. Obviously, this is a new podcast, so thank you guys so much for tuning in and giving your reviews and comments. I so appreciate it. It makes such a big difference to the podcast and helping people hear the podcast and learn about it. Make sure you leave a review on your favorite podcasting app, and we might give you a shout out on the next episode. You can also get full video episodes up every week on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm your host, Andrea Forcum. A special thank you to our wonderful guest, Andrea Caspari. Our executive producers are Andrea Forcum, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor is Andrew Sims. Our engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. Our recording location is the Indiana State by College of Education. To learn more about Those Who Can't Do's program disclaimer and ethics policy and submission, verification, and licensing terms, you can go to podcasterandrea.com. Those Who Can't Do is a human content production. Thank you so much for watching. If you're like me and you're thinking, gosh, I really need more Those Who Can't Do in my life, You can start your binging right now by clicking on that playlist button right over there. New episodes are out every Thursday, so please subscribe and join us each week on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.